off from the work farm, which means it's time to get going on my own farm. So I'm trying to get back into making bread, partly because I really should know how to cook more, but mostly because I'm trying to reduce my reliance on plastic. And it's a twofold thing. A, I'm all for conservation and plastic is drowning our world, and I just want to reduce my reliance on it. So I've already switched things to like plastic-free shampoos and soaps and a bamboo toothbrush and homemade plastic-free toothpaste and stuff like that. But a big thing that we buy a lot of is bread, and of course bread comes wrapped in plastic bags. And so I want to be making bread every week so that I can buy my flour in paper bags and I can really reduce the amount of plastic reliance. The other thing is, when we're on the farm, we are not miles away from anywhere. There is a supermarket within a 5-minute drive. But again, I don't want to be using it. I want to be growing as much as I can on my own land and making as much as I can in terms of preserves, bread and things like that. So while I'm doing all the chores of today, I will also be coming into the kitchen periodically and kneading this bread and batting it back after it's risen. And hopefully by the end of a few hours we'll have some really, really nice, freshly cooked, homemade bread to fill the house with good smell and to fill my belly with good food. But for now, I'm going to pop this back into the bowl, cover it with a tea towel, and go and get on with some jobs in the garden. Well, I got to go and water my seeds. You might think, it's October, why are you watering? Because I do have seedlings in here that still need watering. I just got to find the rows for it. This is the bed of the spinach, and there's some chard here which I need to thin out. Give them a good water. So we haven't got any natural or man-made, irrigation here, so I'm still doing it all by hand, which is frustrating, I have to admit, but we haven't even got an outside tap here, so I can't even run lines or anything. Just give them a little bit of water. These some small little cabbages, a little bit of older chard here. And let's go and fill that watering can up again. So now to the bit of gardening that I don't like, and that's pricking out. I always see these lovely little seedlings coming up and you just think, oh, I don't want to kill them. But it is important that you do, even with this chard, which can kind of live quite happily together. But each seed of chard often has several plants come up, and you do need to thin them out, and you can see just how many plants I've got here. So we've got a couple of yellow ones here. You can see one yellow, another yellow. So this one's coming out. This one. So we're going to thin out this bed. Much to my... See, things like this, you've got a big one here. And then you've got these diddy ones, so that doesn't really matter about taking those out. But when you have two biggish plants, I always feel a bit bereft, like here. These are two very nice plants. You could, of course, lift these, and if you're very careful, you can pull one out and actually pot it on somewhere else. But I have no space in the garden, so I'm afraid one of you is coming out. There we go. So let's thin out this patch. Well, it's a little sparser, but as you can see, it's well thinned out, and nice clump of seedlings. Now, essentially, actually what these are microgreens, so you could actually eat them yourself. However, I am going to have plenty of greens to eat for myself, so I like to give them to the chickens. So one thing I need to show you, and you will have seen this if you're on Instagram or Brimwood Farm's community group, is what's over here. This, as you can see, is the greenhouse, also known as the dumping ground. This is where Bo flew down the garden earlier this week, and there was a cat here, and she hit the glass with such force that she pushed the cat through the glass into the greenhouse. So the cat escaped with no injuries, and the dog escaped with no injuries, and I'm left with a completely broken panel of glass. Now, the question really is, what am I going to do next? And I think we might abandon the greenhouse. Now that seems a little bit mad, but number one, I'm only going to be here for one more growing season max. So can I be bothered to fix it? Second, the greenhouse is completely misplaced. If you look, there's a massive tree, it's right underneath, it doesn't get a lot of light, there's chickens on the other side, so all of that dirt here is all from the chicken side. There's leaves in the gutter, so it's not also the best growing space anyway. And as you can see, it has just generally become a dumping ground. I do try and clean it out every season. I come in here, oh, you can hear the difference in voice in here. I do come and clear it out, but at the moment, literally it's just pots. And there's a few succulents that have not been watered for months in that corner. And there's mostly, I'm growing spiders' webs. So, you know, I'm kind of wondering, can I be bothered to replace it? When I move to the farm, we're going polytunnel. We're not going greenhouse, we're going polytunnel. So it might be worth just cleaning this up, maybe putting some clear tarp over this, and leaving as is. My other option, and something I also have wondered about, is to do a big clean out, but take off the glass and mesh it and use it over the next year as somewhere for pheasant growers, and for Elijah, who's still indoors, for him to come out and spend the winter in. It would probably be more useful, I think, as an animal run rather than a tatty messy, mucky greenhouse. I mean, look at this. What's going to grow through this? Look at all that dirt. So yeah, that is my quandary at the moment. Japanese quail or Coturnex quail really do make the sweetest noises. And they actually love being in this space together. They all bundle down and hang out in one corner. And I think actually that helps in the winter time when it's colder, because they all huddled up together. Look at this young girl here. And I know many of you in the past have said you've had difficulties with your quail fighting, but I've had none of that. And I think it's possibly because they're hatched out at home. So I tend to buy sets of hatching eggs and hatch them all out, and they're all kept together, and so I haven't had tons of problems with cocks scalping each other and things like that. But I love having them right by the house because it means I hear their sweet little noises. They've stopped laying eggs now, of course, because the sunlight levels have dropped and the days have shortened. And actually, most of these are a couple of years old, so they're not that productive. So if I was a efficient farmer, I would get rid. But you know what, I actually like them too much as pets. So for now, this little rabble, who all like to ram in a corner together, can just be sweet little pets. Now what I'm actually doing at the moment is I'm looking through all of these trees because oh look, a tree and a weed. An exciting time is coming up because it's going to be November, and November is tree planting time. So all these trees that have been collected, so these came from a friend, Hamilton's Hens, she's on Twitter, and then a lot of these oaks and these ashes, there's some beech there, and this lovely little rowan actually came from France, from another subscriber of YouTube, and they sent me all these trees. And then here is a little sweet chestnut tree that I sowed from a little sweet chestnut I collected in the forest last year. And when November comes, it's going to be the time to pop up to the farm and start putting these in. Now obviously you've seen we have deer at the farm, so they're going to have to be popped in and safeguarded so that the deer don't nibble on them. But this will be the first, I'm weeding as I go, look, this will be the first step at creating that forest on our land. We've got obviously a lot of trees in the pit, but we want to extend that forest onto our own land, so using a lot of these native trees on that field. I've also been looking more into agroforestry as well, because I'd actually like to combine the nut orchard, or the nuttery as I'm calling it, with growing food on the floor. So planting them out in rows and then having crops growing between them, and the sort of crops that can survive under trees. So that's going to be also a very interesting endeavour, but definitely check back next month, because you can see this silver birch is already going over. Now it's becoming colder. But yeah, check in next month, because we'll be taking a lot of these trees up to the farm and planting them. And as you know, I have a big thing for pines, so I can't wait for this pine to go in. And I'm going to really rinse IKEA this year, because this pine was £1 at IKEA, and it's doubled in size. It's doing really, really well. So I'm going to go there this Christmas, and hopefully they will have a massive sale on pine trees again, and I'll just buy loads. Well, we got there in the end, although this one's a little bit burnt, and this one is a little bit knobbly. But then, isn't that the good thing about homemade food? That it's not a carbon copy, and I quite like that it's quite knobbly. They sound good. Nice and hollow. Leave them to cool down for a little bit. I don't have a wire rack, so I'm using this beautiful tea towel, and then we'll be cutting them open and having a little nibble. It's a bit naughty.
I know you should leave it to cool, but I can't help myself. And I'm really happy, it's come out really well. So I need to be doing that on a weekly basis now, just to up my bread game, and also to be using less plastic and more homemade products. Thank you for joining me today on my day off at Brimwood Farm. If you've liked the video, please, as always, hit that like button and subscribe. And if you want to get notified of future videos, hit the bell as well next to the subscribe button. If you're on Facebook, come and join me on Brimwood Farm's community group. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to continue eating warm bread, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.
Oh no, I dropped all the bread.